Today, more than any time in the past, schools are being criticized. Have you noticed there are so many videos on why schools are failing, how we are failing our children, and why marks are not important? You will find a spate of videos. Why is that happening? That's happening because they have declared children who are passing out of schools unemployable. The unemployment rate is 67 million odd in our country, which is really massive. So this makes everyone extremely nervous. So what are schools doing about it? That is the question. The other part of it is that after school, after the 12th, every competitive exam that there is, starting from the QET to JEE to LSAT to CAT to banking exams to SSC, every competitive exam. If you want to go abroad, your IELTS, your GMAT, your GRE, everyone will have an English section that is extremely difficult, and it is designed to eliminate lakhs of children. What are we doing in schools to make sure that we are preparing our children with the skills that are needed for these exams? The problem is in our resources. We are using the wrong books. What happens when you do in English as the syllabus, when you do stories and poems and ask question answers and meanings, you make it into a content subject, which it is not. English is a medium. You need to communicate. You need to speak and you need to write well in order to say that you have succeeded in that subject. That is not happening because the way we teach, the resources that we use are wrong. I am saying it because I have the right resource for you and I would like you to make a switch to a skills syllabus. What do you need in those competitive exams? You need skills. And what are the skills that I am talking about? So you need skimming, you need scanning, you need note making and summarizing. You need connotations, you need tone, you need inference, you need a formidable vocabulary to draw from in order to write, in order to understand nuances. You need a lot of skills. There is not a single one of these skills that you will find in the books that you are teaching at present. Go and check out for yourselves. If you don't have these skills, you can't do those competitive exams. You cannot start learning these skills with materials that are extremely difficult to read. Books do not have long sentences because they want to make it easy. But when you don't give children any rigor and later on you give them eye-crossing rigor in those exams where they have to read something 4 times in order to understand 2 lines, you are actually putting them to a disadvantage that is not fair. Therefore, you need to start these skills from the beginning. How do you do that? So, I am one of the only people who do a spiral curriculum. A spiral curriculum is one in which, like a spiral, you revisit old learning. So, you layer it and you scale, you layer and you scale. It's one of those curriculums that keeps learning permanent. It is very hard to make a whole curriculum based on this principle. So, nobody in the world has even tried to do it. But in my series Empowering English, Language with Ease, in my pre-primary curriculum, you will find this curriculum, this spiral curriculum of what they call cognitive constructionism present. It was hard to do, but it was worth it, because that's how you retain knowledge and you pull it up whenever you need it. Today I am going to use one of the chapters from my grade 7 book of Empowering English to show you how it works, how the curriculum works. So I am doing connotations. Now connotations are very important to meaning. It affects you emotionally, it affects your relationships, it affects the intention and tone of what you are saying. So if I were to call a person slim, it's a flattering statement. If I were to call that person scrawny, it would be an insult. Both mean thin, but one is not the same as the other. That's a connotation. Those are those extra flavors that are added to words that change their meaning in a very nuanced way, in a very subtle way, that actually affects your response to that person. Such an important skill. Now you will find connotations in poetry, you will find connotations in text, you will find connotations in business text, you will find connotations in politics, in economics, everywhere you will find connotations. It's a choice of words, it's a diction. And we do choice of words and diction in grade 6 when we talk about body language. And you will meet it again at a higher level as connotations that you will generate in grade 7. That's the beauty of the books. It doesn't go away. Otherwise, you teach something, it's forgotten. You teach something, it's wasted. That will not happen with Empowering English. So let's look at connotations and how effective communication, effective text reading, critical analysis all depend upon understanding connotations. So in a very hard text, if they have given you 4 MCQs and you have to make a choice, it might be the connotation of certain words that actually cue you to the correct answer. So let's look at it. So if you look at the page that you are seeing, it tells you very clearly that you understand emotional bias in synonymous words. So there is a small blurb that actually tells you what the skills are. You are working with synonyms. You are categorizing words for bias. So when you give children a bunch of words and you ask them, where is the bias? How many of these are positive? How many of these are neutral? And how many of these are negative? You're making them think. Now, when the NEP talks of critical thinking, it's sitting in these small little exercises that children need to get in order to activate their brains. Understanding how descriptions are affected by bias and how perspectives are sitting in those descriptions. Do you want somebody to be popular? Do you want to use it in a political campaign? Do you want to malign someone? Without saying anything that is derogatory, you can still do it by using a certain word in place of another. That's intelligence, and that is critical thinking. So you've got connotations, and then you've got 3 examples. You've got a lady called Meena Bhosle. Meena Bhosle is a stately, slim and beautifully attired socialite who lives in a plush apartment in Pedder Road. So it's a positive image. She's rich, she's beautifully dressed, and she's living in Pedder Road. The second one is Meena Bhosle is tall and thin. So it changes, the description changes. She wears branded clothes, which is not the same as beautifully attired, right? Branded clothes sounds like she's a wannabe and she's one of those people who's trying to wear brands in order to show off. So you've changed her character by subtly changing those words. She lives in a high-rise building in Pedder Road. So plush apartment has become high-rise building. They might sound like the same, but there is a mild difference in the high-rise. High-rise somehow seems to be one of those aspirational buildings that middle class want to live in. C. Meena Bhosle is skinny and resembles a beanpole in her fancy get-up. Now everything has changed. She's skinny, which is really not flattering, and then she resembles a beanpole. You've given her a simile that makes her look like a beanpole, which is really very unsightly, and then she's got a fancy get-up. The word fancy get-up is really low market. She lives in an old apartment building. Now you made the building, you changed the building completely. It might be a tall building, it might be a high rise, but it's an old building. So it means old, maybe old money, maybe but shabby. So you've changed 3 descriptions of the same person without saying anything completely different. You have changed the way you feel about Meena Bhosle. That's the magic. Now children are going to make descriptions like this, and that is where you generate intelligence and concepts and ideas and skills. You have to make them practice it, isn't it? And they will. They'll pick up a lot of vocabulary also. They'll pick up synonyms, so they'll have to look up synonyms. So suppose if I say let's make somebody greedy, they'll have to go and look up all the words for greed that might be positive, could be positive, and then could be extremely insulting. So that's how we teach English. And that is English. English is all about how we use words. It's not about asking where did a certain boy go and how many fish did he buy and what did he tell his mother when he came back. That is not English. The what questions, the who questions are not English. I'm sorry. And if your children are doing that, then those competitive exams in the future are going to become a nightmare for them. Switch to empowering English. It's the best bet for really strong language skills. We have that, and then we have a whole bunch of questions. Are the facts same? So you are actually asking the child to think about what he just read. And what does this tell us about the influence of our words and our attitude? What does this tell us about our words? So words have to be chosen very carefully. And then you have a whole bunch of words up there. If you can pause the video and look at it. Look at the number of words. Look at the number of words that children are being exposed to, the vocabulary. And then you're asking them to be put into a favorable, neutral and hostile column. Wow, isn't it? Finally, you choose 1 or 2 of the following subjects: a seaside resort, an old building, a film star, and then you write descriptions like we saw of Meena Bhosle in 3 different ways using the same facts. This is how we do connotations. It is deep, it is extremely well thought through, it gives you extra practice. What do we want teachers to do? We want teachers to revisit this from time to time. Whenever they give children to write a story and the child tries to write a character or a setting, we would like the teacher to put that down in her rubrics or success criteria. Ask for the skill of connotations. Ask for creative characters that are negative and positive in the story that you write. So there are different ways of making English very exciting. They don't have to be long, they don't have to be tedious, they don't have to be a lot of work for the teacher or the student. They're tiny, but they can be extremely effective and very, very powerful. The way to make your students really strong is empowering English. It comes to you with a manual, it comes to you with an orientation, with hand holding through the year, and you will get free teacher training when you ask questions. So it's a massive win-win for an extremely good choice of making a switch. Contact me on the number that you're getting up there, and we'll have a chat about how to raise your school to really big heights, and to ensure that our country does not have this criticism of schools failing, of children being depressed, of mental health and suicides. We don't have those terrible kind of media that is being thrown at us. So till I see you again, or till I hear from you again, I'm waiting for that call. See you.